Cool. I have my notes.
Cool.
I'm ready when you are.
I have no notes, but I'm here anyway. Anyway, welcome to everyone to Star Trek Trek, our special 10-week run of Strange New Worlds Season 2 as it airs, and we have just finished
Extravaganza.
Extravaganza. Indeed, we need to flash it up. Some flashing lights might appear on screen. Right. They might not. But yes, this is beginning the first of the 10-week run of Season 2 of Strange New Worlds, beginning with A Broken Circle, the first episode opener. And yeah, this was not the season opener I thought they were going to do. I didn't think it was going to be a continuation. It didn't feel like it was like a, hey, this is our blaring new episode to set things up. It's just more like this is the next episode of Strange New Worlds, which is interesting.
Yeah, it feels very much like you could, if you wanted to, you could just binge it all and go from like season 1, episode 10, season 2, episode 1, and be like, oh, this is exactly the same story, really.
Seamless.
Yeah, and like, to be fair, like, I understand that some people have found that a bit jarring, maybe, because it's a case of, especially if you're more used to like 90s Trek, where you would have last season would end on a cliffhanger and then it would resume in the second half. It's like, this is very much not that. This is, we are picking up on, you know, like, let's say probably 10% of the same plot threads, in terms of like the overarching thing with Una, but the rest of it is a entirely new development with the Klingons and the Broken Circle and Uhura and Chapel and everything like that. So
yeah. So this was directed by Chris Fisher, who was his previous work was A Quality of Mercy, the season 1 final episode, which was excellent. So
now here's the thing. So we're going to get more into the weeds here, but I feel like it's the moment you said that he directed Quality of Mercy, I was like, suddenly it all makes sense, because while we were watching this, there were multiple instances where we were talking about that stylistic choice is a little bit much. This camera rotation is not what I would have done. There is a little bit too much slow-mo being used here. And if you recall, that is also a criticism I had of Quality of Mercy, where you had stuff like the weird, like, handheld shot of Pike in the sickbay and stuff like that. Yeah. And it appears that this is just how Chris Fisher directs. He has, like, more unconventional and, like, I suppose it is eye-catching. I don't know if it's always the best choice for the scene. Because especially that shot where they drop through the floor and then it reorients, like, that would be completely fine if, like you said, we were going to go through like an anti-gravity sequence to communicate that we were changing gravities or whatever. But we just went onto a different floor. Like, I was more fine with it in Quality of Mercy, especially that handheld shot, because it's meant to represent Pike's like alienated state, like he's just traumatized. He's like was having like an out-of-body experience. So that handheld camera made sense there. But here it felt like it was a little bit overdone, and it's especially jarring considering the fact that the rest of the episode is shot very conventionally and very well. Yeah, I would say that the rest of it is like almost like like it's not boring, but it's just very. This is very competently shot. It's not drawing attention to itself. It's just doing what it needs to tell the story well. And then there are these odd moments where it's like, you didn't have to do this stylistic thing. And that's why I feel like because I've seen some criticism of it, and it's like, if you look at the actual plot content of this episode, it's pretty good. And it's like a natural evolution of season 1's story threads. It's just that the stylistic one for this episode is a little bit off. And I don't know if I would have picked him for the opener. Yeah. You know?
So let's get into my main criticism of the episode. I've got a lot of good things to say about this episode, but I think the one thing that was my main criticism, and a lot of people's as well, was that whole sort of fight sequence. And I feel, in my opinion, there were like 3 fights in total through that. Like M'Benga and Chapel.
There's one in the sick bay, there's one on the first deck, and then there's one on the second deck.
When they drop, exactly. Yeah. And okay, so there's two parts I don't like about it. And one of them is which, it went on for far too long. Too many slow-mo shots, too many drops and starts and carries on. There could have been maybe like one fight sequence, and then they kind of get to their objective without being it so convoluted, with Chapel being partly in danger and then suddenly not, and then going off to the airlock and that. And the other problem I have is without, okay, Mbenga has trauma from the Klingon War. That was kind of set up this episode, but probably discussed beforehand, and maybe there's a line somewhere that said that, him and Chapel fought in the war and things like that. But he has a drug.
I'm going to jump in on that point.
Go on.
I'm going to jump in on that point. That is not established in season 1, because I would have remembered it. The only reason I even thought it was a thing was because he had mentioned that his wife had died, his wife Deborah, and I assumed that was during the Klingon War. This is not still explicit whether or not that was related, but I guessed that. It was not part of the text that was introduced in this season. That being said, given that the only members of the crew who we know for a fact were not on the fighting the Klingon War were Pike, Spock, and Una, because they were too busy being sent off after Discovery, it was open season. You're allowed to fill in these gaps because it is the most logical place for these people to be. So I have no problem with them introducing that in here. That being said, the drug itself, this causes a lot of problems for Star Trek, really. I'm happy with Mbenga having this PTSD moment, because one thing is that Babs can act the fuck out of it. He is really good. There are some great moments, especially when he's torturing, interrogating the cloud. Yeah, he's terrifying, and he's got a lot of attitude, and that was great. That was the good part of it, to bring out that kind of reaction from that actor and sort of work through his trauma. But I don't like the idea of Starfleet suddenly just having a drug that can turn them into super soldiers for a limited time with no real consequence. It's and there's no explanation as to whether it was illegal. There was kind of a hint to a Chapel said that, we're going to use that again. Are you ready to use it? They've obviously had it before during the Klingon War, which maybe they served together, or there was something that they developed. I think that's the explicit test. They were in assignment together. So I don't have a problem with the existence of this drug, because we have seen drugs do something similar. I name-checked Cordrazine in Ever Forever. McCoy was knocking guys left, right, and center. Obviously he went insane as well, but that's, this is a different drug. I am absolutely fine with this being some kind of ridiculous performance enhancer. It's 23rd century medicine. It's nuts. You can regrow kidneys, okay? The problem I have is, you're absolutely right. There is apparently no side effect from this. To the point where, Mbenga isn't even in a hospital bed at the end of the episode. It's just Chapel, because she got all the other injuries, and she had a cardiac arrest. I need this to be addressed. I need there to be some kind of ongoing health problem. I need there to be, I fucked my body doing this. And you get a little bit of that, because you can see that, Chapel manages to almost, break her hand on some guy's face because she's punching so hard. I need either maybe some kind of addiction storyline. I could see that being the thing, because we've gone down that road before with Trillium D. I didn't think it was the best handled there, but I feel like just a case of you can't do this. It will literally break your body into pieces if you keep on doing it, and that would be fine. It will close that loop as to why it doesn't come up again and why no one uses it, because it is so absolutely toxic to the body. You're not meant to use this kind of thing. Now that being said, I think we have to kind of think about what this is telling us in the story. And in the story, this is over dramatic and over stylized, but it is in service of character. It is informing us about the depths of Mbenga's rage and the depth of his trauma, because he is noticeably stronger than Chapel. And I don't think that's just because of the performance enhancer. I think it is because he is significantly more traumatized than she is. You can see it on him.
Yeah.
And I am hoping we will get this developed and it will not be dropped. I don't want this to be a flash in the pan. I want this to be brought back up again.
That's the worry.
Maybe in the episode. I'm hoping the episode where we see everyone's traumas, we're thinking we see Uhura's parents die in that shuttle accident, and Lon comes face to face with Gorn. We're thinking that might be an episode where they're shown their greatest fears or traumas. If this whole storyline comes back and it addresses the serum use, turning into Captain America for half an episode, then I'm fine with it. It retroactively will justify the scene and the amount of attention to it. That being said, it was totally a pacing killer.
Yeah, it lasted too long, because we didn't even have cutaways. I think you could have done, if they were going to do it, you could have had that first fight, cutaway, and then they're just finishing off a couple of guys and then going into the reprogramming the comms unit. I think and like we said before, a lot of stylistic choices in that whole scene. It's a lot of slow-mo. There was that weird sort of Dutch angle flip into into what we thought was going to be the sweet spot of the ship, but just turned to be a drop into the deck. There was a lot of things there that, it was definitely went on a bit too long.
And it's also this thing of so when you're thinking of the direction of these things, you think about what you're trying to communicate with when you're making a stylistic choice, right? Use a Dutch angle to communicate that things are off kilter, because they literally are off kilter. You make things out of focus and draw things in and out because you want to draw attention to them, right? And here you want to communicate that like Chaplin and Benga are like, you know, basically off the chain. They are ridiculously amped, and you go for slow-mo, and that's fine if you're perceiving time in a much slower way, where you want to like draw attention to the movement. But considering how like amped they were, I almost feel like it should have been more erratic and more like, you know, there should have been. I don't want to let's say that something like the Bourne Identity or like, you know, Quantum of Solace. Like I think that's cut a little bit too jagged.
Taken 3.
Oh god, don't even. But something a little bit more akin to that, rather than overuse of slow-mo. Like maybe slow-mo and then slow up. Like I think Zack Snyder used that a little bit, and it's fine when used in moderation. But this was not moderation.
No, I won't go too much more on this. But yeah, there was. I think that's probably the one part.
I feel like it's worth talking about it because it's the biggest problem. It's actually the biggest. The only thing I would say is an actual flaw in the episode, because I think the rest of the episode is really rock solid.
Absolutely, and well, let's talk about one of my favorite things. We got Klingons. We got classic TNG movie era Klingons come back, which is great. I did know we're introduced to the guy trying to have a drinking contest with La'an, and kudos to that guy's actor. He goes through a range of like,
he's fucking great.
Like real kind of like, you can't show me I'm feeble human, you know. It's definite, you know, there's some great Klingonry at work here.
Like I feel like after Discovery Season 2 backed off from the Klingons super hard, and then like the only other time we've seen them since was in Picard Season 3. Yeah. With Worf. And I feel like he was the only one, wasn't he?
Don't think we saw another Klingon, not in Season 1 at least, I remember.
So it's been like, what, 4 or 5 years since we've seen a lot of Klingons on screen. So I feel like they had an excuse to be like, let's go big. Let's just remind everyone just how fun Klingons can be when you A, don't overuse them, and B, don't slather them in the prosthetics that makes it hard for them to act.
It was very... I would have maybe liked to see like a couple of different Klingons, like maybe one of the genetically modified Klingons in the background, and maybe like one Discovery style Klingon, just to prove a point as like, oh, we have many different looks, you know, like, you know, they're done. It would have been nice, but I'm not going to complain right now. I was very happy with every Klingon scene.
Exactly, yeah. No, like they were done to perfection. It's kind of just like with the Shepherds in Season 1.
Oh, yeah.
Like they cast these guys perfectly. They know exactly what they are cast for. Or the Rongovians in Episode 5. Like they've been casting these aliens perfectly as exactly what they're meant to be, like the Romulan commander in Call It Mercy. Every one of these bit parts, like I have to commend the casting director. They are serving these points exactly and have exactly the right energy that they're bringing to it. Like you were talking about just how much the Shock reminded you of like J.G. Hertzler. Like that's a really big compliment.
The Klingon captain was just like, I looked at him, and the way he started speaking, I thought, is that J.G. Hertzler? Like, but it turned out it wasn't. But he was like you say, he was a very classic TNG era, the way he spoke, the way he addressed the stream, and there was part of my brain, like he's in my head, I could hear like a Romulan commander somewhere speaking the same lines, and he was great. I want to see more of him. And one of the things I came up with was also maybe his relationship with Spock with the end there was maybe what draws Spock to Kronos during the Undiscovered Country. Maybe he gets more a position on the High Council and introduces him to Gorkon, which would be... I like seeing Spock out of his element, but it makes sense. It's weird.
Yeah, no, I think this episode is a Spock episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Really, when you think about it. And I think that's part of the reason why the stylistic stuff kind of like draws away from it, because it's so divorced from the Spock stuff. And there's a lot of really good character work being done here, because, like I say, he's being drawn out of his comfort zone, but he's doing a really good job. He's kind of flirting with being able to lie, which is something that is foreshadowed earlier on in the episode as being he's awful at. Kudos to Celia Rose Gooding for like one of the best sight roll of her eyes I've ever seen.
Yeah, she really did.
And it's just like I really love what they're doing with Spock, where it's like, even though this is a character we know so much about, there is still so much that we don't know about his growth, and you can see that the bullet points of how you get from here to there to there to there. But seeing the growth in between it is still just so fun, because Ethan Peck is such a good performer.
Ethan Peck was stunning this episode. He had the complete range of everything here. He had the struggling with his emotions to trying to stagger half tipsy through the Klingon group, And even almost half apologetic to Admiral April at the end there.
Yeah, no, you get a nice range of all the Spock emotions, but he still feels like he's mostly in control. And it's really important that Spock is portrayed as mostly in control and actively maintaining that control. That's why I think it's really cool that we get to see the origin of his playing the Vulcan loop, which was always a bit of an odd outlier in his character in TOS, and this makes a bit more sense out of it. It's because this was a problem that they ran into with Tuvok and Voyager, where it was like, how do we come up with an interesting episode for Tuvok? Make him lose emotional control. And it's like, yeah, it's cool that you get to see more of that emotional range, but you lose the essential point of what a Vulcan is and their whole philosophy if you're constantly making them lose control. You need to show them being in control and maintaining that control for it to have any weight when they lose it. And I feel like that's what they're doing a lot here. They're kind of showing just how hard Spock has to work to maintain it. It's not something that comes naturally to Vulcans.
Stunning Spock episode. But I especially liked his introduction, or his interactions with our brand new chief engineer, Carol Kane herself, with Commander Pelia. What a joy! What an absolute joy!
She reminds me of you know what she's got. You'll get this idol. She's got Miriam Margoyle's energy.
Miriam Margoyles, who's that from?
She played Professor Sprout in the Harry Potter movies, but she's well known for being a massively left wing, massively shit stirring, foul-mouthed granny. Sort of. She's 82 years old. She's doing a nude photo shoot because she's like, "Fuck it, I haven't got any fucking limitations. I have no filter. You will listen to me." And she's intelligent and measured, but also just completely batshit. And Pelia has that exact same energy. The accent is a bit distracting, but I was immediately charmed. I was very charmed by
watching it. I definitely was a bit like, yeah, no, this is great. I kind of like
this. Yeah, it just takes a lot. It's like watching Paul Wesley Kirk. You kind of have to get used to it, but then you're like, no, this is a stylistic choice that makes tons of sense. And she's just so much fun. She has got her big vat of shit, and she is stirring it. And she's just like, you can't stop me. I'm going to just cause problems on purpose and aid and abet the hijacking of the Federation flagship because I'm bored.
I can't wait for Pike to come back to the Enterprise like, you did what, Spock? And you wait, who's this? Who is this? Who's this small lanthanite on my bridge?
I wanted to be like, hello, I'm Chief Pelia. I am the chief enabler. I'm going to enable everyone to make bad decisions.
Yes, she does, great. Doesn't she? Yeah, I'm just going to cause trouble. But no, she was great. Love the energy that we get from that, which is great. I'm a big fan of contrasts. I love yin yang, black on white, things that make things stand out. And there's nothing that makes things stand out more than have Pelia talking to Spock on the bridge as he's trying to hijack it. That was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Star Trek is meant to be about. It's about the differences between us, causing difference, but also allowing us to close that distance and allowing us to draw out the best that we can be. And I adore the fact that even though she's not in makeup, I understand she's 70 years old, she doesn't want to be doing that, but she's still an alien. I love it when we have aliens on board. Obviously, visible aliens are just as great. I love our Sarus, I love our Odos, but the fact that we're going to be able to explore another alien culture, cool. That's what I'm here for Star Trek about. If you're gonna... And guess what? We're all long past the point of complaining why they all look human. Don't accept it, it's fine.
We've got the chase. That is the one point you can go to.
Exactly.
No, that's there. That's canon.
Yeah. And the fact that she name checks Amanda is so great. Because you're so used to Spock being called out as son of Sarek. And his ancestry with Amanda is downplayed because it's not something that comes up very often. But there's just something really novel about, you're Spock, Amanda Grayson's son. And he's like, that one. And it's Amanda is a formidable presence in her own right with a significant history and achievement, and I'm wondering if we're going to get to see her this season.
Well, I would love that. Maybe she'll make an appearance. That.
Because her actor on Discovery was perfect. She was perfectly cast. She has just that right energy. I could see her becoming Jane Wyatt in in 10 years or whatever. And I want to see Pelia and Amanda. I want to see that relationship now. I want to see all this. Get me Amanda on the Enterprise, embarrassing Spock in front of Pelia and Pike. I want it. I need it.
Okay, we also had a lot of juicy ship shots here, especially involving one including a ever so slightly kit-bashed Crossfield class, which was built using scraps in a cave, Iron Man style, which I think was why Mitchell went, I think it's a Crossfield class, maybe it's not.
Yeah, because it's got the exact same saucer section as the Discovery, but the rest of it is very much more of a traditional, like, TOS style. Man, they really went off on the VFX like this. That whole sequence really where they're chasing the Crossfield class through the range was just beautifully shot. And even though Ortegas is not getting as much to do as, say, like Uhura or Spock, she's still just like knocking it straight out of the fucking park. She is such a talent. And
that moment where you know, Pelia's just like, you know, vent the nacelles is like, I could do that, but should I? I love that moment.
I mean, like, I get to do that. Yeah. She just has that perfect, like, kind of maverick energy. I cannot wait for our Ortegas episode. I want to know so much more about her. And we did learn now that she is a war veteran. She is not perhaps affected as much as Mbenga or Chapel were, but she has been through the game. She's got like a bit of, like, you know, she is experienced and she's a veteran. I'm wondering if that's how Pike and her met, although Pike wasn't in the war, so I'm not sure. There's a lot of like room to develop her character, and just getting her to see her in action is always great fun. Uhura got a lot to do this episode, actually.
Yeah.
Right, you know, identifying Pelia as a Lanthanite just from the accent, identifying that obscure dialect of Klingon so she could decode what they were saying. You know, identifying Lan's message, like even though you would think, oh, communications officer, what use is that? You know, it's such a useless position, quote unquote, that it's not even a thing in TNG era, and yet they're coming up with all these various different reasons for her to be really useful.
Definitely an absolute parallel for the writers of how they use Sato compared to how they're using Uhura here, because Sato was wasted. Like, you realise now that Sato was wasted. They could have done so much more than have like nervous translator.
All it requires is a little bit of imagination, a little bit of, I need to give Sato something to do that relates to her linguistic capabilities, not to the fact that she's a space coward. Like, give her something to do. And like, Celia's Rose Gooding is such a good performer that I'm always happy to see it. We also have to call out, you were talking about how good the VFX was in this episode. We also have to talk about that intro. They've changed it up, and I love that they do that. Trek is doing it really consistently in its new shows. Like, Discovery did it. Picard changed between seasons as well. I just love evolving intros. Lower Decks as well. Yeah. I love that, because it's like you get a sense of progression, a little bit of history, and some of the shots in this, like that, especially that the pink planet with the big, like, kind of, you know, the giant sunburst and the Enterprise just flying through, like, it shows you Strange New Worlds. I want to see it. It's a perfect advertisement for it. It's a great intro.
Yeah, we did see quite a cool Strange New World this time. We saw a planet that had a fun diplomatic like the structure of this episode is great. We've got a dilithium planet. We share it every 30 days with the Klingons as to keep a peace treaty, and everyone can have the ore. But there is this malicious group that is trying to restart the war. That's a great concept. I thought that was amazing. I thought that was nicely broken down and not over-explained either. It's just, you know, Admiral April just going, this is what it is, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they do a smart thing of breaking it up into two chunks. So you get April's exposition and you get Lan's exposition about why these two fats interact. Yeah. And it's such a good outgrowth from Discovery's, like, you know, because Discovery was very much the broad strokes of the war, just like, these are the political reasons. But now we're getting into the aftermath, and, you know, like, people dealing with their traumas, but also, what does the geopolitical situation look like after this? And I certainly wouldn't mind getting to see Laurel or Tyler back again, because they were great in Discovery as well. But it's just a nice follow-on, and we are not pretending that Discovery didn't happen.
No.
We're getting to see the D7 class, and we're going to maybe see a growth toward the TOS like era stuff. And I'm wondering, this is a kind of fragile piece, but it seems pretty on the level. Like, it didn't take much for Spock to reestablish that peace treaty, so...
Yeah, but the I'm wondering. Cool. That was like one of the best Klingons ever. Exactly. Like, he's just automatically just like, I have to see a Vulcan drink. Like, this could mend old wounds.
Yeah. And now we have to ask the question, okay, so we know that in 10 years they're back at a war again, because that's what happens with the Organian Treaty. Yeah. So is something going to happen that's going to push us closer and closer to that war? And that's like I love seeing that kind of development, that zigzag of, like, you know, increasing tensions, decreasing tensions.
Space politics.
It's a nice callback to the Cold War.
Space politics. My favorite episodes of TNG are the space politics, like especially with the Klingon Empire and the Romulans. Like, I really like that kind of stuff. It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And it even kind of this is a very much a 60s throwback in some ways, not just in the thematic things of the Cold War, but that whole thing of like sharing this dilithium planet is very much like, oh, it's a Western gold rush and wagon train to the stars. Oh, we've got to stop those, like banditos from taking the watering hole or whatever. It's like the control of resources. Like it's very much shifted off a few things because we're doing it in 2023, but it's just a nice use of Star Trek's very rich history and its ability to draw on so many different genres.
No, definitely great.
Mitchell is back. I'm so glad to see Mitchell.
Yes.
And she's great. She's fun.
No, it's good that they've elevated... Well, not... she was always there in the background, but they actually gave her... she sabotaged the warp core. She was in the main briefing scene. She's not a main cast character, but it's nice that she's there because she's the other one that's on the bridge with Ortega. So maybe they bump her up to main cast. Maybe that'd be nice.
I definitely wouldn't mind. She's clearly a talented performer and she's a good fun. Pardon me. It is also a case of I love it when shows develop a strong supporting cast. So it's like, cool, we got a supporting cast. Like, who's going to turn up? We've got Battelle, we've got April, we've got Mitchell, and I love to see that cast evolve. We've got a new transporter chief, Chief J, who I imagine we're probably going to be replacing Kyle, who we have unfortunately lost. But maybe even she'll get some character development. You don't know.
Maybe she's not as mean.
Maybe she is much less mean than Kyle. So the other big criticism I've seen people have, and I kind of understand it, is that it's a bit of a shame to start off season 2 and you get like 2 minutes of Anson Mount.
Yeah.
Because you do notice his absence because he is such a strong force of personality. That being said, he makes the most out of those 2-3 minutes.
Oh god, yeah. Proper Boy Scout.
Proper. I'm going to be Starfleet's Captain America. I'm not going to stand for injustice. We're going to set up the next episode with the legal episode, which is going to be great fun. And it also kind of shows you just how integral he is to the balance of personalities. Because like he's gone for 5 minutes and Spock is already stealing the Enterprise. It's for a good reason.
First steal.
First one, certainly not the last. And it's like, Pike would have done the exact same thing, but he probably would have been able to get away with it a bit easier. And it's like, you sometimes need to remove him in order to give other people a chance to shine. Like, I know that it sucks not to lose a performer. Like, we had that with season 1, where we were constantly feeding Hemmer's absence when he wasn't around. But especially with a cast this wide, you do occasionally need to remove someone in order to make room so that other people can have more room to flourish.
And I think, next week is the courtroom episode. I think we'll get plenty of Pike and plenty of Una.
We're going to get plenty of Pike and Una, They were very much small presences here, but I feel like it's going to be a case of, cool, maybe everyone else is probably going to take more of a backseat and we can get a hard focus on these two, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, it was odd that it was in the first episode, but I don't mind it, actually. We'll get plenty of Anson Mount. Okay. Let's talk worst and best moments. So I feel like we're probably going to pick the same worst moment. So should we start with that? I'll let you go first. I'll be the generous one.
Yeah, it's got to be the weird. I'm going to drop through the floor and then flip the camera around. It's just unnecessary stylized stuff that I didn't feel like it was necessary. It just reminds me of some of the more frenetic direction choices in the worst episode of season 2 in Discovery. Point of Light, where it's just like flickering light, slow-mo. It's like, I understand that it's like this is a nice way to communicate certain things, but moderation is key when it comes to stylistic techniques. So you notice them more when you don't overuse them.
Yeah, if you want to cut that runtime down by about 10 minutes, that's fine. But don't overuse it. I have to go the same. My worst moment was the same. I know we try and pick one different, but I actually don't think there was another worse. I don't think there was another bad moment in this episode, really, other than that. I think the rest was pretty tight and pretty cohesive. Okay, how about...
the rest of it is going to take it all.
How about you?
The rest of it, it depends on how much it pans out. Yeah. Sorry, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, what's your best moment?
Oh, God, now there's a lot to choose.
There you go. Okay. Lost a wide plethora. Okay. There's only the two of us this week, so you've got to... I'll tell you what, I'll let you have two. Two best moments.
I can have two? I can have two as a treat?
You can. Okay. That's my present to you.
My first one is absolutely the scene on the bridge with Pelia. She has 2 scenes in this episode, but you wouldn't know it from how much she dominates it on screen. She is such a little gremlin for being like 150 years older.
And that's the right kind of era for her, isn't it? That's Carol Kane is the Gremlins era, isn't it?
Exactly. It's like she's such a wonderful presence. I want to see more of her. I was immediately charmed. Like the first time I watched this episode, I just had a big old smile on my face just seeing her interact with Spock. And just calling everyone out and being so incredibly competent. Guess what? Starfleet officers being competent is my fetish. Sorry.
That's how I get my kicks.
Exactly. Second favorite part of the episode, probably Ortegas just doing a flawless aileron roll through that nebula and dodging every fucking torpedo like she's like in the Matrix with the Enterprise. Like, just what a gorgeous show off. Like. Starship all the time, absolutely. Just as cool as like evasive Patton Ortega's Gamma 1 in the Shepard episode. She's absolutely the best helmsman we've ever seen. Sorry, no contest. She's great.
Sorry, Paris.
Idol.
Klingon captain, that smooth son of a bitch who was about to start a war and just went, I need to see a Vulcan drink. What a strange thing. Like, he automatically went into that conversation knowing he wasn't going to start a war. He knows the stakes. He knows what's going on. He's got a brain. He could see one Starfleet officer fire another, but he had to interrogate Spock a little bit, and then he just went, fuck it, let's drink. This is our planet.
In fact, you know what? Just to further support your point, why was that Klingon cruiser there? They were probably investigating the Broken Circle.
Very probably.
They were probably like, we've been hearing about some false flag shit. L'Rell was like, go and have a look and make sure they're not doing some... And he's like, oh, I literally just saw it play out in front of me. But like you said, I want to see this Vulcan drink. Exactly. I'm going to torture him a little bit.
No, he was great, and the actor was brilliant as well. And I'm going to add an addendum onto that as well. I loved when the D7 warped in, and you get that little creaking, weighty... We said it in the watch through, but like, I don't really care that they play sounds in space because it's cooler. There is no sound in space, but hearing that ship warp in, have a sense of weight when it, creaks around the corner, and it's great. I think my other favourite moment is La'an having a drinking contest. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that. Most of the Klingons'
even though
reactions.
Even though this was jumping off of her point, she didn't get a ton to do, but what she did get in this episode was great. Like that drinking contest, and also the Return of the Jedi thermal detonator moment with the just. And I'm pretty sure that's like a callback to something in season 1 as well. I think the episode where she was like mentoring Uhura. Right. I really like the burgeoning relationship that she's got with Uhura, where she's kind of taking on that mentor role. I really like that, and they developed that a bit further here as well. I like that a lot. You go away, you miss a few things. I'm also really looking forward to just all the little hints of what we're gonna see going forward, like Gorn War, which is not something that ever came up before, and we're getting real close to completely smashing Arena. Arena is in a very, very tremulous state right now. But I'm also a case of like, do I care that much? I'm really enjoying Strange New Worlds. Do I really care?
I mean, you can twist that script around as far as you really like it. Spock's a secret.
In the end, it's like. In the end, it comes down to, do I enjoy both episodes? Yes. Do I particularly care they don't match up? Not really.
No.
I want to see a development of what's going on with this eye gesture between Lana and Mbenga. I want to know what that's about.
Yeah. It's really strange.
We need to see who is the leader of this scholarship about archaeological medicine on Vulcan. Is it a certain Roger Corby, our first name R?
Roger.
I need to see it. No, Roger.
Okay, sorry.
Also, our clearance, Clarence. And I also have to call out, Strange New Worlds has a first big gay couple with Oriana's parents being lesbians. So they didn't get names, so still waiting for development on that.
Yeah.
But
no, Stamets and Culber's energy is just too strong. It has sucked up all the gay energy from all the other Star Trek shows. So,
I don't know, Seven and Raffi, but
that's true as well. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
but okay.
But guess what? It's better than in season 1. I'll take it.
Very true. Very true. How about give us your rating for this episode? What is the criteria we shall be rating this against?
Okay, what am I going for here?
You mean you hadn't even pre-planned it?
I haven't pre-planned it. Okay. Idol, how many Vamonoses out of 10 would you give this episode?
A small one for you, a small one. Usually it's not like the 2-paragraph wall of texts.
What was that I said for the other one? Was it lemonade trays with the little holes in them. So I called that one out. I remember that being one of my favorites.
Just find. I've got the spreadsheet open here because I need to put the scores in. But hang on, no, I think
because I think it was that one, and I think I did the Enterprise or the Voyager one we just did recently.
No, the longest one you've done is the 24th century lemonade trays that go through the bottom instead of being on a standard tray. Is your longest one next to illegally photon warhead mined Klingon corpses that contravene the 1948 Geneva Convention. So I'll take how many Vamanosas. I would give this. I think I've actually been talked up to a 6.5. It was a 6 for me. I will go a 6.5. That action sequence really drew a lot out for me. I think that it causes too many problems. I did enjoy a lot of the episode. Also, I'm a little bit, I would have liked a season 2 opener to feel more, for the hype that we have brought up for it.
A bit more of a mission statement?
A little bit more of a mission statement, a little bit. This would have been a great maybe episode 2 or 3 I could have seen, something like that. I would have maybe liked to sort of set things up with another episode. What was the other thing I didn't really care for? No, I've already forgotten it. But yeah, there was, it was mostly that sequence with the drug and then them kicking ass and taking names. Well, not taking any names in that case, but it served. It could have been served. The purpose it served could have been done better, I think. So it's a 6.5.
It could have just been cut down.
Yeah.
I think you're being unnecessarily harsh. I'd give it an 8. 8 Vominos out of 10 for me. I think that the amount of character work being done with Spock here, the amount of great moments for Uhura and Lon and Mitchell and Ortegas, all the great stuff with like Pelia, I feel like that absolutely elevates this way up. But like, I'm gonna rewatch this episode. Like, I'm not gonna rewatch. I'm not gonna rewatch the child killing episode in season 1, and I gave that more of a 6 because it's competently done. I'm just never gonna rewatch it, and I think that in the grand scheme of things, like, you can just fast forward through the fight scenes next time you watch it.
That's true.
Actually.
Skip
and then
seconds.
that basically eliminates the one. And it's like, I feel like 6.5 is like, you're taking 3.5 points off for a 5-minute sequence.
All right, okay,
I feel like that's unnecessary.
You've guilted me up to a 7. How about that? I'll guilt me up to a 7. I'll take a 7.
I'll
take
it.
Fine.
Yeah. I'll fully admit, maybe part of this is just a case of I'm really excited to have Strange New Worlds back because it's so fucking good. But I do genuinely feel this. I do genuinely feel this is a really strong episode that's a lot stronger than one component part.
Yeah, no, you are right. I believe. I feel in my head I'm thinking episodes to come, and I'm kind of hoping they will be better. And I've got a feeling next episode's going to be a cracker. So.
Oh, don't worry. If we're lucky, it'll be all 8s, 9s, and 10s from here on out. That would be the greatest gift to us. Can you imagine?
I want a 10. I need to go back. I actually can't. We need to check our. Did we score when we did this?
Spock-a-mock.
Yeah, Spock-a-mock. Oh,
we gave him. Yeah, Spock-a-mock got a 10s from everyone. I think apart from Auto.
Awesome. That guy. All right, thank you.
That guy.
Very
he hates
much.
this show.
Thank you very much for watching. We will be back again next week for episode 2 of Strange New Worlds season 2. So you can't courtroom scene. Get your Samuel T.
We're gonna get legal
ready, and we will see you next time. Live long and prosper. Ta-ra.